Good morning, everyone. How are you today?
Good morning.
Good morning. I want to make sure you can hear me and also that you are seeing the agenda on your screen.
It's yes to both for me.
Perfect. Good start. Thank you so much for joining this meeting this morning. This is the second meeting of the MPO's TSM&O Advisory Group. It is also the last meeting of the year, so we will meet again in June of 2026. My name is Nina Venter. I'm MPO staff, and I will walk us through the agenda. Um, Before we start, we have not received any public comments for this meeting, but I do want to pause and see if there's anybody online that has a public comment on any of the agenda items. Okay, perfect. So we will check that one off as a no. Next, move on to action items. This is for the approval of our previous meeting on June 16th, 2025. The meeting minutes were attached to your agenda. If you've had a chance to review it, if you have any comments or changes that need to be made before we take action on this, please let us know now. All right. So this committee does vote by consensus. So I will need a motion to approve the minutes for June 16th, 2025.
This is Megan. I'll make a motion to approve.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. And do we have a second?
Second. That's Amy.
Amy, thank you. And then I just need an all in favor. And I can take silence as in favor. And any opposed? All right, perfect. So with that, our meeting minutes are approved. Moving on to reports and presentations. We don't have any specific agenda items for jurisdiction project updates, but I do want to open the floor and see if there are any updates from any of the jurisdictions in the two-county area on local project updates for the group. Feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand. All right, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not seeing anything, so we can move on. And also in the future, if any of the jurisdictions do have project updates for this group, this agenda item is a standing item, and we are more than happy to add items by request. So keep that in mind for our June 15th meeting next year. With that, I'll move on to the MPO report. First up is our 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan. So as you may have heard by now, the MPO board officially adopted the 2050 plan last Monday. So we are now working on finalizing the documents, but the plan is set. What I included in the agenda packet specifically was the project pipeline and all of the TSM&O projects that were included in the 2050 plan. And a few key highlights, and I can go down to that. So the first thing that was included are the cost feasible pipeline projects. So these are projects that have funding identified in the 25-year life of the plan. They are broken down, of course, in 5-year time bands and as funded through construction. At our previous meeting, we discussed the ATMS master plan. And so I did want to go ahead and confirm that that project was included in the cost feasible plan. Funded through construction in the 2031-2035 time band, but with planning phases in the first 5 years. So just wanted to confirm that this project is included and will be moving forward. So with that, I would recommend that when the MPO opens the annual call for projects at the end of this week, that this be something that the counties do apply for or just submit a project application for. And this is just as a way for us to communicate as a region that we are ready to take the next step on this master plan. And then we can begin coordinating on that. Of course, the project applications, given that it's just planning, will be a very basic, very straightforward application. Excuse me. Are there any questions on that? Okay. And then I also included the program projects for the TSM&O program specifically. So the LRTP did identify several funding programs, of which one of them is the TSM&O program. So unlike the pipeline projects, these projects are not 100% funded, but that there are some funding identified for these projects in the funding programs. So I included in your packet the TSM&O projects specifically. These are the projects that do have some funding tied to them, and they are eligible for funding consideration through the MPO's annual call for projects, which will be released at the end of this year. Top of the list is getting the US 41 Transit Signal Priority Project funded and implemented after the pilot project has been completed. The rest of the projects were identified as rollover projects from the 2045 cost feasible, from the congestion management process, and then from a couple of our studies. We did work with the local agencies to identify projects that should be included, and these were the projects that sort of made the Tier 1 funded table. What you see below that is Tier 2, and these are all of the projects that were considered as part of the needs assessment, but do not have any funding attached to them. These projects would otherwise be eligible for funding through the MPO's prioritization projects, but they are currently listed as unfunded needs. And as you can see, the list is significantly longer than the final list, and this is not unlike the other programs in the plan as well. So we are now working on developing the 2026 call for projects, and we will release that at the end of this week. You can look at an email from me probably by Friday that will have all of the instructions on how to submit project applications, including a resource packet for TSM&O projects specifically. The call for projects this year will be very similar to the process as it has been in previous years as well. So there will be no major changes there. We're looking at a due date for the 2026 call for projects, probably in the middle of December. So that gives us just about a month and a half to develop these applications and get them submitted. What this does, it allows MPO staff to review the applications, review the scoring and the prioritization, and develop a draft list for the committees and the MPO board in January. Following January, we can continue to look at projects and develop the priority list. It then goes to the committees and the board for final adoption in March. Is there anybody in the group that has any questions or comments or anything on the top of their mind?
I don't have anything.
Thank you. All right, perfect. So of course, if there are any questions about the projects that are included in the plan or about the 2026 call for projects, do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are available to help. Yes, Stephen.
Yeah, back on the project list. This is Stephen, D1 Traffic Ops, Rep DOT. I noticed there was a project on there. I think it was from the CFP, calling for State Road 78 and 79, State Road 64, ITS adaptive control.
Can you give me the
And
idea?
you said the tier 1 projects are funded, correct?
Yes, is funding attached to the tier 1 projects.
Okay, I wasn't familiar with those two specific projects. I wasn't sure if there's anybody on the call that could give a little bit more detail on that one.
Stephen, if you don't mind, if you can call out the ID number, it'll help me find it a little quicker.
CFP 78 and 79.
78 and 79. Thank you.
A little bit lower down the page there from your cursor. There you go.
I certainly don't have any background information on these projects off the top of my head, but I can look into them. It does look like they came out of the 2045 plan, so I can look into those. But yeah, if there's anybody else in the call, please feel free to speak up. Okay, perfect. Stephen, if you allow me, I will make a note of that and I will follow up with you.
Sure, appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure thing. All right. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. Item 4B2 is the Regional TSM&O Memorandum of Understanding. This is more of an FYI item. It did go to the MPO board last week, and this is just a very standard update of the Regional TSM&O MOU. The MOU is between Metroplan Orlando, Fort Pinellas, Hillsborough MPO, Lake Sumter MPO, Ocala Marion County TPO, Pasco MPO, Polk TPO, Sarasota Manatee, Space Coast TPO, and Volusia Flagler TPO, all of which are MPOs or TPOs in the region. And the purpose of this MOU is to facilitate cooperation and coordination of regional TSM&O programming and the application of multimodal transportation strategies and technologies intended to maximize the efficiency, safety, and utility of the existing transportation network. And I am reading that right off the cover sheet from Monday's board meeting. So again, this was just a pretty standard update and reaffirmation of the MOU. The agenda packet did include the strategic plan for the regional TSM&O program. The date on that is February 2025. I did not have that in this agenda packet, but I can certainly send that out to the group if there is interest in seeing what that strategic plan looks like. So the MPO does sit in on regional coordination meetings for the regional TSM&O program. I'm sure some of you may have been involved in that in the past as well. I am not quite sure when the next meetings are, but usually Ryan Brown and Dave Hutchinson are our point persons for attending those meetings. And we can perhaps plan to have an update for the group at our next meeting in June. Any questions or comments from me on that item? All right, perfect. So I think that is the last of the MPO items. So at this point, I will hand it over to FDOT for the FDOT report. And then also the TSM&O master plan. I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if we're going to do two separate reports, or if there's not, then we can just go right into the master plan.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kathleen Keene here with VHB. I'm here to discuss specifically the D1 TSM&O master plan and give a quick overview of that study and where we stand in the process. But just to be sure, I know Catherine Chenault and Belinda Thomas, I believe, are with us today, and just want to make sure there wasn't any other items they wanted to discuss outside of that.
Nothing from me.
Okay, great. All right. Nina, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have a few slides that'll just help in the discussion.
That's great. It's all yours.
Great. All right, so hopefully everybody can see my screen. Can I just get someone to acknowledge that it is visible, please?
Yes, we can see
Great.
it.
Thank you so much. All right. So as I mentioned, I am Kathleen Keene. I am with VHB, who is the consultant helping District 1 and Catherine Chenault and Belinda Thomas on the District 1 TSM&O master plan. So I am here today to give a high-level overview of the study and where we stand in the process. So I'll be walking through that along with the mission, vision, and goals developed specific to the study. And then outlining that process and next steps for everyone's awareness. So the project overview. This study is focused on the 6 highest populated counties in the district, those being Collier, Lee, Charlotte, Sarasota, Manatee, and Polk. And what we're looking to do is identify a set of 5 priority corridors in each county, so 30 total across the study, and ultimately recommend technology strategies that may be implemented to resolve deficiencies that we find in our review of data out there. You'll note, and this is a common theme throughout this study, we're really focused on using technology and finding technology recommendations to solve those deficiencies and issues that we have. So as I mentioned, we've developed a mission and vision, which are on this screen, along with a set of goals specific to the study. So we developed this early on as one of the first steps, and we'll be utilizing this throughout the course of this study to make sure that we're maintaining consistency with the overall mission and vision. I'll note that we developed these in close coordination with the district staff, and they are tied to the FDOT Compass pillar as well. So I'll just give everybody a moment to leave this on the screen and pause. Great. So hopefully one of the things that you picked up in reading these is, again, that reference to technology solutions. So that's that important theme that we're looking to weave through this study as we advance forward. And so we also developed a set of 8 goals. So I'm going to leave 4 on the screen now, so everybody can read those while I'm speaking, and then I'll share the second set of 4. These goals are aligned with the mission and vision and are focused around safety, mobility, resilience, improved communications, and workforce development. And again, you'll note the elements of technology that are woven through all of these. So let me skip to the next, goals 5 to 8, and I'll leave these on the screen just for folks to review. All right, and again, these goals, as we're developing recommendations and reviewing recommendations, we're going to be reviewing them against the mission, vision, and goals for that consistency, and ultimately using those to kind of rank the recommendations that we're identifying out here. So as I mentioned, the ultimate or the way this study works is for each of those 6 counties, we're identifying a set of 5 priority quarters. So I'm going to show, since this is Sarasota, Manatee, and PO, I'm going to show the quarters for those 5 counties. So the set of 5 quarters that were identified are shown on the screen. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we got to these 5. So what we did first in the study was really identify the roadway network that we would be considering. And that roadway network consisted of US and state roads, select local roads that contribute to regional connectivity, and roads that had available data. We utilized a very data-driven approach to prioritize and score each of the quarters within that network. So having that data was a key as well. Once we identified that overall roadway network, we developed a methodology to score and ultimately get to the top 5 quarters that you see on the screen. That methodology was focused around 6 areas of safety, performance, volume and growth, roadway characteristics and geometry, trucks and freight, and transit. So we looked at a number of metrics under each of those elements and ultimately developed a score, ranked all of the quarters in each county, had a number of working sessions with the district's staff, and also had a set of stakeholder meetings back in September with various stakeholders from all of the counties engaged in this study to collect feedback and ultimately land on these. So what's on the screen now is a map of the top 5 quarters for Sarasota County. As you can see, they are all generally within the city of Sarasota area, west of I-75. And for Manatee County, showing those top 5 quarters on the screen now, they're focused in the Bradenton-Palmetto area, also west of 75. And these are the sets of quarters that we are now advancing and will ultimately identify a set of recommendations, technology focused, of course, to help improve and address some of the existing deficiencies out there. So the study process, this is a pretty simple flow chart that I will walk through, but just at a high level for your awareness, green are tasks that we have already completed. Orange is the phase that we're currently in, so in progress, and blue are upcoming. So the green tasks are pretty much what I already spoke through, right? So existing conditions, looking at what's out there now. We defined that TSM&O roadway network. So that was that the US and state roads, select local roads, all that had available data. We identified the top 5 priority quarters, which were those 2 sets of maps that I had on previous slides. And as I referenced, in September, we had a series of stakeholder meetings with representatives, many who are on the call today, but also from the city, the county, and across all 6 of the counties included in this. Currently, we are in the analysis phase, so reviewing the data, identifying gaps in the system, and then next steps will be identifying strategies and evaluating those, so those suite of recommendations. We'll go back out to those same stakeholders we met with in September. Once we have a draft set of recommendations reviewed with the district, we'll be back to present those back to the stakeholders and get feedback. We'll document this and then ultimately implementation. So those recommended technologies for regional improvements could be coordinated for future programming at that point. And then I did just want to put both my contact information as well as Catherine Chenault's contact information up on the screen. If anybody does have any questions or would like any follow-up, please feel free to reach out to myself or Kat, and we'd be more than happy to answer or discuss with you. So with that, I know Nina had asked if we could share a set of these slides with her after the groups or after the meeting, so I will absolutely do that. But I'll turn it back to you, Nina, and I guess I can entertain a handful of questions if there's availability within the agenda.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. Yes, let's open it up. Do we have any questions for the study team on the master plan?
Hi, Nina. Good morning. This is Vishal with Manatee County.
Good morning.
Question slash comment. Well, to one, how is this different from, I believe it was VHB who had developed top 20 corridors 3-ish years back. So why are we redoing the exercise of redefining the corridors when some of them were already defined or derived? And second is, at the time when it was done, there was emphasis given on state and local corridors. I don't see that. I get it, University Parkway being local, but it's an emerging CIS, so it's not exactly what we call local. So given the parameters and given everything that we are evaluating, this is heavily going to be biased towards state corridors.
So I can speak to the first question, Michelle, and thank you for chiming in. So yes, we did do a review some years ago now. The methodology for this study is generally consistent, modified slightly with the data sets that are currently available. But the intent is, some of those quarters, things may have changed, recommendations may have been implemented. So it's, the district's intention to every few years go through a similar process to identify a set of top quarters and develop recommendations that can be, hopefully advanced and implemented and kind of keep that continuous process, always utilizing, the latest available data at the time. So we're not relying on past data, because I know, I'm sure as you know, and everyone on this call knows, things change quickly, and we do these days have a lot more data available to us in almost real time. So hopefully that addressed your first question. And then I do want to acknowledge your point on, this is more heavily weighted to the state quarters. Part of that is Oh, I'm sorry, Keith, did you want to chime in?
Yes, Kathleen, hang on one second. Our machines aren't native to Zoom, so I'm having to work through some things here. But I wanted to mention that, to Vishal's comment, that the previous study was a CV study. So that could be equate to the differences.
Keith, I'm referring to a TSM master plan, not a
The
CV
previous
master plan.
the previous analysis that was done was for the CV master plan, so we'll have to look at that offline and verify the reasoning for that other master plan that was reviewed. It favors state corridors because it was our study, this one currently that we've got right now, the master plan that you're seeing now. And if you want to talk about local roads, prioritizing the use of the CMP. So that's my comments, just to we may have to talk in a separate venue as to the core of your question. So thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Keith. Catherine, I see you have your hand raised. Did you want to follow up?
Yes, thanks. Just for clarification, we did do a TSM&O master plan several years ago with VHB, and it did look at more corridors and was heavily centric on things like where we could fill in gaps on all of TSM&O umbrella. So it included sidewalks, intersection improvements, things of capacity building, things of that nature. And this one is actually looking at focusing our efforts, overlaying with the MPO's priorities and local agency priorities so that we can maybe move the needle on projects and corridors faster, but also looks at only technology. We're not looking at any other types of solutions we're only looking at TSM&O technology projects. So that is the major difference. And that was about 5 years ago. I'm looking to update this again in 3 years to see where we're at. So this will be a recurring activity for the district. And we did not want to eliminate corridors. We wanted to look at the whole network. So we're looking at our stamp network from a statewide perspective. We looked at all the regional roadways as well, those that are used for regional connectivity. So if it is not on the list, it's probably just lower on the list. It is because state roads are primary arterials and they get utilized quite a bit and have a lot of safety issues and concerns. So those are some of the answers for you.
Yeah. Catherine, Kat, thanks for clarifying. And also, I'd like to ask Vishal, I'd like to start meeting on a separate note between us and Manatee County to have these discussions so we can get into the details prior to these meetings. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions for Kathleen? Right, Kathleen, can you just remind us one more time, when is the plan anticipated to be completed?
We are working to finalize the schedule, but we're anticipating to have the second set of stakeholder meetings sometime around year end.
Perfect. Thank you very
And we'll
much.
need documentation after that.
Okay, good to know. Well, thank you so much for your time and for this presentation. If you have any questions for Kathleen, please, feel free to reach out to her directly, or you can send your emails over to me and I will forward them on to the team. So I think that brings us towards just about the close of the agenda. Next up is once around the table. So I want to just pause and leave space for anybody to offer an update, ask any questions, anything that you might want to share with the group.
Hey, Nina, this is Vishal again. I have a lingering question from one of the previous slides. So when the call for projects is open, are we limited to, or will there be higher weightage given to the tier 1 funded projects if we were to make those lists? If we were to make those requests? And one of the reasons I ask is one of the projects on that tier 1 is University Parkway from Burnside to State Road 70. That segment is non-existent, but it's in tier 1. So just want to make sure, is there some weightage given to our requests, or can we still make a case for other projects?
Let me double check. Well, first, let me double check the limits on that project. Thank you for pointing that out. And the way that the plan is currently developed is that the projects that are included on the project tables are really the only projects that are eligible through the prioritization process. The tier 2 projects, those that are unfunded, you can apply for them and they would otherwise be eligible if additional funding became available. Projects that are not included on the project tables, you can certainly apply for those, but they are much less likely to take top priority over other projects that are included on the project tables. So for example, if you're applying for a project that is not included at all in the project tables, submitting the application will help us get a conversation started about the needs. However, the policy sort of is that the projects in the plan are eligible. Projects outside of the plan are not immediately eligible.
Okay. Yeah, we have applied for the past 2, I want to say 3 cycles for similar projects. And they have not been funded. We had requested to be included. to include those projects on the list. I'll have to verify if they are on tier 2, but I'm sure there's a process to get on tier 2.
Okay, I'll go back and I'll take a look at the county's application histories and pull those projects out. My recommendation would be to go ahead and submit the application, even though it's not immediately eligible. And then we can use that to start a conversation.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else from the group? All right, perfect. Well, with that, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. If there are any other questions or comments, you know where to find us. And our next meeting is on June 15th, 2026 at 9 a.m. via Zoom. So we will see you then, if not before.
Thank you, Nina.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too, Mike.
Bye.